What if I told you there's a San Francisco neighborhood where you can hike before work, know your barista by name, go to a local grocery store run by local residents, and make it downtown for your first meeting in 15 minutes? I'm gonna show you Glen Park. It is the perfect mix of suburbia and city feel. It has one of those downtowns that has like one of everything that you might need, but it also is, I think, the best neighborhood with single family homes that has a BART station. People are always fighting over Noe Valley, but this is like second to Noe. It's such a great neighborhood. It has the hillside charm, it has views, it has a downtown that you need, it has great public transit and access. It's a little bit smaller, but we're gonna show you how it rivals Noe Valley. Our team has done over $1 billion in sales over the last decade. We love sharing what it means to live in San Francisco. Hit that subscribe button and check back in with us every Monday at 5 p.m. for more videos like this. So today we're gonna talk about Glen Park, and I'm gonna show you what it's like to live here on a day-to-day basis. We're gonna start with, what does it mean to wake up here? What do you do first in the morning? You wanna get your endorphins. I'm gonna show you a park that is a massive park. It's basically the same size as all of the residential and commercial area in Glen Park. Okay, so we're here at Glen Canyon Park. I think it's this little slice of heaven in this neighborhood. We're gonna get to the commercial corridor and then also the single family homes in the area, show you what you can get for your money here, and just talk through the nuances of this neighborhood and how it compares to the surrounding neighborhoods, why you should choose Glen Park over something else. Before we do that, let's just take this all in. It is so stunning. If you look at a map of Glen Park, this park is basically half the whole territory that makes up Glen Park. What I love about this, so right now what you can see is sort of the amenities of the park. There's a rec center that we're about to hit in a second. We have a really fun outdoor playground here. Today's a day off, it's a public holiday, so there's a lot of people out and about. You can see they're taking advantage. It's summertime, kids are out of school. In the morning, you just want to get your workout in. You could come here for a hike, a walk, a run, bring your kids to burn off some steam if you have kids. So this rec center here that we're about to approach was redone in 2017, and it has a gym, a gymnasium, has a climbing wall. There are tennis courts on the grounds here. You have 2 baseball diamonds, and then obviously a lot of just green open space. What I love about this park, it's right now, from what you can see these beautiful eucalyptus trees around us, and obviously this green grass park here, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. What really makes this park shine and so different from other parks in the city is that it's a canyon. As the name states, there's like 3.7, I think, roughly, miles worth of hiking trails here, but the canyon is just so beautiful. You really don't feel like you're in a city here at all. Whereas like Golden Gate Park is fairly flat. You have John McLaren Park, which is more mountainous, I would say, but this one, a canyon, so you really, you can't even see anything around you. You can see some hillside homes, but other than that, you can just pretend that you're in Marin or someplace totally different and just escape the day before your day starts. Let's see if we can find a hiking trail. Here we go. These beautiful eucalyptus trees that are surrounding us and this dirt trail. So if you're a trail runner, I think you could probably bike on this too if you had a sturdy, more sort of trail bike. It's sort of an urban sanctuary here in that you're obviously in the middle of the city, but I think you have like coyotes and foxes come here. Probably not the greatest thing, but it's a little slice of nature in here. So stunning. I love this park. While we're walking in the park, I think it would be good to talk a little bit about weather in terms of Glen Park. Check out our website. We have a ton of information, obviously about neighborhoods. We have all these videos here as well, but specifically you can look for a neighborhood map on our website, go to the neighborhood page, and you can click on the sub-districts and see how they compare to the surrounding neighborhoods in terms of weather. So Glen Park is in, I don't know how we categorize it specifically, but it's in the same category as Noe, Mission, Potrero. To be honest, I feel like that's a tiny bit of a stretch because I think it's probably has the least warm weather of those, but it is still in the same family in terms of microclimates. All of the surrounding neighborhoods, so Noe is to the north, and then everything to the west of Glen Park is in a cooler climate zone than this. So if you are a sun worshiper and you don't want to get anywhere near like Sunnyside or the Sunset or Mira Loma Park, which is a little bit to the north, then this is kind of your pocket of sun if you, again, want to rival Noe or the Mission. So if weather is important to you, Glen Park is definitely a go-to. One more thing to note in terms of weather, obviously we'll talk a little bit about this when we talk about real estate and prices and the kind of geography and topography of the homes here, but this is a hillier neighborhood for sure. You actually only have a few streets in Glen Park that are completely flat and walkable. So those are Chenery and Diamond. Again, we'll get to those a little bit more. You know, generally speaking, with higher topography and hillsides, you do bring in some of the fog. So I would say probably not all areas of this neighborhood are created equal. If you know Diamond Heights very well or Miraloma Park, you get sort of like the top of the hill climb in those neighborhoods, and with that a little bit foggier territory. And I think Glen Park does have some of that because it is right up against both of those neighborhoods. So again, sort of depends where you are, and that will obviously affect prices too. So if you're in a flat walkable section of this neighborhood that has maybe better weather, you're gonna pay more for that versus being at the top of the hill and starting to get that climate zone coming at you. Okay, we've done our morning workout. Let's go to what we would do next in the morning, which is go, in my case, go grab a cup of coffee. Let's go to the downtown and see what there is there. I wanna show you, again, I mentioned there's kind of one of everything in the commercial corridor of Glen Park. It kind of has a villagey, very local villagey vibe to it. I'll show you where the BART station is, which is, as I mentioned, kind of a pillar of Glen Park. I wanted to start here first in this really cute, quaint little house. I like it because you have like all these rose bushes for one, but you never get like front yards in a lot of neighborhoods in San Francisco, including Glen Park, honestly. Most of the homes you might be able to tell are like right up against the sidewalk. And so while I do feel like Glen Park has that feel of almost being kind of suburban in some ways, there's certain things that you miss in a city, like a front yard and big space and detached homes. But anyway, that one, there's diamonds in the rough. Let us walk. We're walking on a little bit of an incline because you have the commercial corridor of Glen Park at the very base of the neighborhood, and it's honestly at the base of a hill as well. So everything in this neighborhood sort of shoots off away from the downtown, and so that's where we're walking right now, is we're walking south. So we're walking towards Chenery right now, which is one of the sections of the commercial corridor. And what I love about Chenery is it wraps around sort of the eastern to southern portion of the neighborhood, and it's all pretty much flat the whole way. There's a little bit of nuance to that, but if you live on Chenery, I feel like it's really easy to get downtown. But what's also nice about Chenery is that you can essentially walk from Glen Park pretty much over to Bernal, and actually like kind of over to Noe too, in a maybe more indirect way. Glen Park, Noe, and Bernal are all in this kind of triangle with one another. It's actually like if you live here, you can get the perks of all three neighborhoods. To our left here, we have a cute little local bookshop. I think they have some events here, I think it's a record store as well, so that's cute. You have a hair salon that we just passed, cheese shop. Some of these places are closed right now because today's Juneteenth. You have a personal training gym, you can do yoga, Pilates there as well, a store for pet foods. So really this downtown is like, again, one of everything. It's like check, check, check. We hit all our boxes, but it's not like there's an abundance here. The hardware store is to our left. We just passed Higher Grounds. This is probably where I would go for coffee. You have a few coffee spots here, and then Glen Park Cafe, you can go for more of like a sit down breakfast as well. It's breakfast and lunch all day, so that's kind of fun. And that's really like the start here. If you can see, this is Diamond Street, and so Diamond is kind of a main thoroughfare, and 2 blocks here, 1 block that way, and that's it. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and each little suburb had its own little very small downtown, and that's what this really feels like to me. And with all the single family home inventory around here, let's stop here for a second and look at Canyon Market here. Canyon Market is fantastic. I love it. It's probably my favorite part about the downtown here. If you live in other parts of the city and you know of Gus's or you know of Molly Stone's, this feels very similar to me because it has like the vibe of a Whole Foods in terms of more kind of specialty items and less generic brands, and you have a great wine selection. So anyway, if I lived here, I would probably budget too much of my grocery bill to shop here, but it's really great to kind of have that as your staple. In terms of other grocery stores around here, you have Safeway on Monterey, which is not too far from here in Sunnyside. You also have a Whole Foods in Noe. You have a Whole Foods in Ingleside as well, which is a neighborhood that's not too far And then you have a Molly Stone's in Mira Loma. So you have a lot of different stores around you. Another gym here, a taqueria, you have a bank, you have another coffee place, Cuppa, and then on the corner here you have kind of like a salon type spot, and then Pebbles Cafe. Again, check, 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 you have what you need here. We are gonna walk right now to one of the highlights of Glen Park, if not maybe the highlight, depending on who you ask, with everybody getting back into the office and people not just working from home 100%. This is even more of an interesting aspect of the neighborhood. A BART station, like literally it is right here in the downtown. You have BART. I like that it's on the other side of Bosworth here, so you have a little bit of a separation from people getting on the BART to the people actually like living in their local downtown. There's nothing better than having like total access and transportation. You can take the BART, get downtown in 15 minutes. You can get to Soma in 12 minutes, and then you can get to the East Bay, you can get to the South Bay. So it's just, again, this like residential single family home based area, but then access to everything. Like literally, what more could you want? Noe doesn't have that. Bernal doesn't have that. I think it's such a key piece as to why Glen Park stands out. I want to talk about who lives here, why do you pick living here? Obviously, public transit and access is a huge, huge component to why my buyers are interested in Glen Park. Let's go take a look at some inventory, talk about what it costs to live here. How is it different than Noe? How is it different than Bernal, Sunnyside? We'll get to it in just a second. Okay, and outside of just the BART, I have to note that there's also Muni lines here. So the J, the K, and the M Muni lines sort of jut out outside of Glen Park. So again, some more access. And then of course the freeway as well. So you cannot feel it here whatsoever, and you honestly can't feel it in most of Glen Park, but we are literally seconds away from jumping on the freeway to get pretty much anywhere you want around San Francisco, outside of San Francisco. So the access is again so huge here. It's what probably makes this neighborhood shine more than anything else, just being in the thick of it. Okay, so we have tackled the kind of the commercial corridor where you're going to pick up your coffee in the morning, where you're going after work to grab your groceries and all of that. We need to stop at the final point, which is, where are you calling home at the end of the day? Let's talk about real estate and the different nuances of the neighborhood in just a second. Okay, we just got sidetracked on our way to talking about real estate. We just bumped into the head of the Merchants Association of Glen Park. We're definitely standing out a little bit with our camera and walking through the busyness of downtown, and she was just like, what are you guys doing? What are you filming? Tell me more. So we were just having a chat, and she didn't want to be on video, which totally makes sense, but she was just sharing some tidbits. She was born and raised here. Her mother still lives in Glen Park as well. They both live in Glen Park. Such a special story. I mean, she's just talking about the fact that people just really stay here. There's legacy owners in Glen Park, and it's just a real community feel. And then she was talking a bit about the commerce here as well, and the business owners, the fact that the business association has been so good to them and that they tend to stick around. I mean, she was basically rattling off all the places we just passed and saying how long they've been establishments here. So the bar we talked about, she said 99, I think 91, 99 years here. Some of these restaurants for 40 years. And she said there's just hardly any vacancies. So just kind of nice anecdote to kind of hear about the neighborhood and what it means to live here and be a kind of locally run downtown. It's just so special. That's what makes San Francisco really unique in a lot of ways. There's just not a lot of chains here. I'm so glad we bumped into her, because I feel like my conversation with her just really encapsulates what it is like to live in San Francisco with just the local feel. Reach out to us if you want to understand like how Glen Park is not the only one that has that feel. There's actually a lot of neighborhoods in San Francisco that have very locally run downtowns and have a community feel that you wouldn't know just researching online. You have to be like almost on the ground talking to residents who have lived there for long periods of time to really get the nuances of these different pockets and why they're so special. So reach out to us. We would definitely like to share more about like neighborhoods you're not considering and why they're super special, because I think San Francisco often has just like those 1, 2, or 3 neighborhoods that everyone likes to talk about, but there are so many gems in this city that we'd be happy to share more with you. So definitely contact us if that's something of interest. I'm sick of walking this hill. Let's go jump in the car and go drive to a pocket of town, or of the neighborhood rather, to get a little bit more into the weeds on costs and what you get for your money here. Okay, so we are on a street called Moffett right now, and I just wanted to point out this really cute dark blue house here. It just sold recently, and I feel like it's a good depiction of what you can get in Glen Park compared to some other surrounding neighborhoods. So it sold for around 1.7. It was a 3-bed, 2-bath with garage parking, and it was a little bit over 1,400 square feet. Let's just compare that to Noe. So it definitely needed a little bit of love. The kitchen, probably most buyers would do some updating there. But again, like a little over 1,400 square feet. So it's kind of like maybe a little bit larger than a lot of the homes in like the Sunset, for example, but you can kind of get a similar vibe to some like Sunset areas where you have all these attached homes next to one another. That's just one example of inventory that you have in Glen Park. But for a single family home like that in Noe, you're probably paying closer to 2.2 to 2.5, depending on how competitive it gets. You definitely can get entry level homes in Glen Park for under 2 million, which you really can't do in Noe unless it's a total like fixer, honestly. In terms of the inventory here, in the last year, there were 67 single family homes that sold in Glen Park. Compare that with Noe, for example, that had close to 100 homes. So definitely more selling in Noe on the single family home front. The average single family home price here was 2.2 in the last year. In Noe, it was 2.7. Also here, there were only 11 like condos, TICs, or townhomes, whereas Noe Valley had basically the same amount of single family homes and condos sold, so like around 100. So there's much more inventory selling in Noe, and there's much more diversity in terms of the type of inventory that you can get. And that's not even factoring in multi-units, which there's definitely more multi-unit sales in Noe than there are here. So this is like a run-of-the-mill single family home neighborhood, which people love. I mean, people like the diversity too, in terms of like having different things to choose from. But if you're buying in Glen Park, you are pretty much buying a single family home, although there's a small pocket where there's some nice townhomes that live like single family homes too, but there's just not a lot of inventory there. Kind of interesting when you're comparing Glen Park and Noe in terms of that price point. So you definitely get more for your money here, and you can also get your foot in the door under 2 million if that's your price point. It's not like a ton. You probably have a little bit of work to do, and you're going to be kind of above the 1.7 range, I would say. Sometimes there's things around 1.5, maybe they don't have parking, and maybe they're quite a bit smaller here. So those are fewer and further between. In terms of comparing this to, so I have buyers who were interested in Glen Park. They worked tech jobs, they needed to commute down south for their work, and so being in this neighborhood was really important to them. Their budget was 2.5. I mean, it was 2.5, but they really wanted to be more like 2.4, 2.3. So Noe, for like a done home that didn't really need any work, they didn't really want to have to deal with that. They were busy people, like they didn't want a project. So Noe like was kind of possible, but really at the end of the day, it's not. And then as we kind of went into their search a little bit more, they realized they wanted like done, and they wanted more square footage too. They had family visiting from out of town, and so we ended up looking at Glen Park, but then we also kind of pulled in Sunnyside. So that Sunnyside is a neighborhood to the west of Glen Park and is also a single family home dense neighborhood. Getting into that other weather plane here, so a little bit cooler. They found a place on the far east side of Sunnyside, and it's basically walkable to Glen Park, so it's very Glen Park adjacent. Even I feel like sometimes agents actually market those homes as being in Glen Park. I think they could have bought in Glen Park for sure as well, and they probably could have found something to their standard, but a lot of this stuff is like a numbers game. Like if you want to buy in these next 3 months, you only have so much inventory to look at, and so having that flexibility, because there's not always a ton of inventory options. So I think you have to get really creative in San Francisco, and you can't miss out on little nuances and little kind of side neighborhoods that might actually work just as well for you as the place that you think that you should be in. So if you're a buyer or seller looking in San Francisco or looking to sell in San Francisco, please reach out to us. We've ranked one of the top teams in San Francisco over the last decade, and we'd be happy to partner you through this process. Reach out to the contact information below, and we'd love to chat.